Well, welcome once again to Calaveras Living. Our guest on today's show is a man who's been quite successful in his life, but looking back, he wasn't quite that successful when he was younger. And we're going to talk to him. In fact, he got in trouble with the law and unfortunately ended up in prison, but he really turned his life around. He's since written a book that's a big help to other prisoners who are due to get out, and I think you'll find the whole topic interesting. We'll tell you about the book and learn a lot about Casey Odland. Casey, it's good to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Good. How'd you get in all that trouble when you were young?
Oh, I just had a wild seed, and the regular kids, the good kids, they didn't care for me all that much.
Why was that?
I was just always wanted to jump off a cliff or ride my bicycle faster or whatever it was, and so the bad kids, that's what they were doing. So I just ended up hanging out with them because they were more fun and they thought I was fun. So it was a match.
But it started pretty early in your life that you got in some trouble, right?
Oh, yeah. I was smoking cigarettes by age 7 or 8, and by age 12 was my first arrest. And
for what?
I got arrested for, we went out at night, me and a couple other kids, and we stole a couple fire extinguishers from a UC Davis pool, and we were shooting them off for about a mile down the road, and so the alarm, I guess, had gone off at the pool, and so all they did was follow all the white powder to us.
A real trail, huh?
Took them about a mile, and they got us, and they had us in the University Davis Police Department, and in my top pocket was a little half-inch roach of marijuana, and in 1970 that was a really big thing. And the police officer actually felt bad. He said, "Oh no," he says, "they're going to send you to California Youth Authority for 6 months." And so right off the bat, it was kind of a hard start.
And that's what happened?
Pretty much. That's what
then
happened.
When you got out, though, it unfortunately progressed to more serious things later, right?
Yes, group homes, foster homes, and by age 20, I caught a robbery, and that was in
When you say you caught a robbery, what do you mean?
That's a street term. In football, you might say you caught a football.
Yeah, pass.
And, on the street, if you get arrested for something, it's not like you did it, but you caught it.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't your fault, but you caught
it. They caught you.
Yeah, they caught me.
Okay.
And so it's just a street term. And so on that, lucky for me, Governor Brown had been in office for a couple years, and he changed the sentencing from the old sentencings to an indeterminate sentencing, which
was his first term, or back when?
Yeah, but way back when he had the gray black duster that he drove around with Linda Ronstadt. So the nice thing for me in relation to him was that now the robbery was 2, 3, or 4 years, and so mine was a middle range. Nobody got hurt, so I got 3 years. And what that meant is that you would do 2/3 of that in prison, and then you would do 1 year on parole. But if it would have been under the old system, I would have got 10 years straight, and then I would have had to go to the parole board and beg them for my freedom. So
ultimately, what was the most serious thing you were convicted of?
The robbery was the most. On my adult record with the FBI, I have a 1976 receiving stolen property, and no, it's possession of a switchblade knife and reckless driving in 1976, and then in 1978 a robbery. And luckily, the Davis Police Department and all the other departments of my record through the 70s, they burned those records from anything prior to 1978. So it was kind of lucky for me because 1974 I got arrested 19 times, and it wasn't even August. But at that time when I was 16, I'd learned how to work the system and work with the lawyers, and I got some breaks.
What were you thinking at the time? I mean, were you just kind of wild, or is it your upbringing, or where you lived, or your personality, or what?
It was just my father was a psychiatrist, but I was his oldest son, and so he was involved in getting his child psychiatry degree, which was rare at the time, his professorship, once a month in the Navy as a commander. So he was away all the time. So I can't complain about that. But there was no father model right there. You can go into a bad neighborhood and you can say, oh, the dad's never around because he's out getting loaded. Then you can go into the good neighborhood and you can say, yeah, the kids are screwed up because the dad's never there because he's off with his career.
Well, now, how did you turn it all around and become what successful as you are today?
Well, when I was running and gunning, so to speak, in the streets, the whole focus at that time when I was younger was to reach prison, because that's the university. So if you talk to a lot of
graduate
young kids,
school.
yeah, graduate school. And so, so I finally reached prison, but once I saw prison, then I realized that, you know, this really, after about a year of it, it's like, I really don't need this as a career anymore.
It's not a pleasant place.
No, and it's really kind of good that, I mean, in this state, like, you know, Folsom Prison is kind of like the bellwether of all the other prisons as far as stabbings. Okay,
Yeah.
so by June of every year, all the other prisons know, okay, Folsom's averaging about 75 to 95 stabbings by June or July. Okay,
Yeah.
and they're way ahead of everybody else. You know, there's no fist fights at Folsom. If you cross somebody or somebody crosses you, the steel comes out pretty quick.
Wow.
And so, so everybody would always benchmark off of Folsom the same way that Princeton would benchmark off of Harvard, or Stanford would benchmark off of Yale. And so, but you know, after enough of that, the last year I really started to focus on, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to get out of this? But I had to do it all myself.
How old were you then?
I was about 21 at that time.
So starting to dawn on you.
Starting to grow up. Starting to grow up.
Okay. Then what did you got out, and how did you go about making a living? Or
well, what it is fortunate for me, I took an office machine repair class in prison. And
so at that time there was more rehab than there is now, right?
At that time there was about 15 to 20 trades at each prison, automotive, different things like that. I chose office machine repair because a bunkmate of mine across the way, Jim, the number 3 guy on the yard for our crew, so to speak, he said, hey, I've already been offered a job. And so I was like, wow, you know, $1,200 a month, I'll try for that, because in 1980 that sounded like really good money for somebody with a record. Yeah. And so when I got out, I made sure I didn't go back to my old neighborhood. And
that's one of the key points.
That's the first key point. No old neighborhood, no old girlfriend, no old friends. And I paroled to a halfway house in Hayward, California, and had to report to my parole officer in Oakland. And so from there, I got a job in San Francisco, moved to San Francisco, landed my first job for $5 an hour. And, but I worked a lot of overtime and saved my money and stayed away from everybody other than joining a gym to stay in shape and everything like that.
Well, that's good. And so you started making some money then. I mean, didn't you eventually form a company that went into typewriter repair and everything?
Yeah, by 1983, what it was is every time that I would see somebody to fix a typewriter for them, I had little 3x5 cards, and I would take all the information, you know, what they liked, anything we talked about, I would write it down. And then about 3 years into it, I just, you know, accessed those cards, and I had about 12 inches high of the cards, but I only used an inch. That's all I could get through. And in that process, I landed the San Francisco Unified School District for all of their typewriters. And at the time, they had a lot of typing classes, you know, 4 per high school, and they were always broken. So I was just busy, started hiring employees, but I ended up getting the San Francisco Opera, the San Francisco Ballet, the San Francisco Symphony, San Francisco Conservatory of Music, the zoo. In Golden Gate Park, I got the San Francisco Academy of Sciences, Asian Art Museum, the Art Institute, and I parlayed that. I got all of them to agree to be on my reference sheet. And then I went down into the financial district, and I got Levi Strauss, Bronson McKinnon, which is a law firm, the biggest accounting firms, and I became, in San Francisco, the biggest typewriter repair outfit. Wow.
There was no stigma attached to you being an ex-con?
Well, the good thing about a thing that I use in my book, so to speak, is that you know, it's just like when you get out, you're not going to get a job for the government. You're not going to get a job as a teacher. Okay? You're not going to get a job working around any kids. You're going to be involved in small business. And so in the book, I teach as far as, hey, guess what? The Small Business Administration is your best friend. You know, part of their mission is to help you. Contact them. And then when I would gain accounts, I don't look like your normal, average, run-of-the-mill person out there running and gunning. And so they never asked me, hey, by the way, in the 1980s and 90s, there was no, oh, well, what is your background? And even if you own a company, they never ask what is your background. They ask what is your employee's background.
Sure.
So
that's good. Well, you became fairly successful soon then, right?
Yes, within 5 years. I mean, the company, my first year, I only made $11,000. But by the 10th year, my company grossed $428,000.
Wow.
And I was netting anywhere from 60 to 120 grand a year in my pocket. And for an ex-con, that's really good money.
Wow. But of course, you had quite an attitudinal change, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. Raised 3 kids. I wouldn't let the kids go to school in San Francisco because the schools are a bit rough, even the private schools. And so I went 20 miles south to Half Moon Bay so that they would be raised in a nice environment.
Boy, that's good to hear. It can be done then.
Can be done.
You're a living example. Well, let's talk about the book. And this is his book. The title of it is The Ex-Con and the Italian Princess. And maybe a quick comment about that title.
Oh, well, what it was is that it took me to age 49 to find the love of my life. And not everything works out forever, but what I talk about in the book is that instead of going to the bar or the grocery store or a referral from a friend when you're going to, look for a woman in your life, go to eHarmony, go to, some dating site that will match you up psychologically and on a lot of different levels with who you're going to be with, because that's a lot better way to meet somebody than to just think that you're going to find somebody by chance.
Yeah, because in the bar they always look nicer later at night, huh?
Oh yeah. It's
and you look more handsome, and everything's going better. But anyway, the book is designed really, and your basic purpose in writing it is to help people, basically men, I guess, who are in prison and close to getting out, right? Right.
That's the key sweet spot, for that particular market.
Now, maybe you can delineate some of the main things you tell people. Some of the, of course, you're going to a certain particular audience too. That's a little different than probably the people who are watching us.
Right. The way the book is perceived by different audiences, as far as the person that has less than 12 months to get out, there's nothing that's happening in prison, even when they had the programs going full blast, that instructs them the way I do, with the knowledge base. When they get out of prison, this book becomes a knowledge base for them, to where they can reach into this tool bag and pull out this tool and go, oh, here's how I handle a divorce or a bankruptcy, instead of with a gun. So this helps create a more nonviolent society.
So it's kind of a resource, do-it-yourself book.
Right. And at the same time, there's a bit of foul language in here, but whenever I was locked up, which was a lot of times between age 12 and age 22, when somebody came to speak to us, if they didn't swear a little bit, we didn't trust them. But I mean, that's just the way we looked at it.
That there might be some errors there.
So, but with, I found out also with continuation high schools, it's a way of stopping the crime spree before it starts. So I've had some really good successes with continuation high schools. And another one that I think I'm going to have success at in the future is with probationers. And mainly because in this state right now, the only ones that are really moving forward with rehabilitation, after prison and jail, is the probation departments. The probation departments are being incentivized, with evidence-based programs to say, we are cutting this many people from coming back. And right here in Calaveras County, Terry Hall is the chief probation officer, and she's actually leading the way for the state of California when it comes to, she went from, I think she cut her returns back into prison and jail by half. Wow. So it's a phenomenal number. And so I couldn't believe when I went into the local probation office down at the Columbus building, or whichever it is on 49, and the probationers and the probation officers were bantering back and forth and having a good time, and hi, how you doing? Good to see you. And I was like, where am I at? What office is this? Is this a church?
But they had used the book?
Not the book. It's just the programs that they have going so far is they've turned around the system of, hi, we're probation and we're the authority, and if you screw up, you're going straight back. Okay, so instead of that, now they have a totally new program in place to work with these people and instruct them, put them in different modules, shall we say, so that they learn, oh gosh, I don't have to go back. You know, I have new tools. So with probation, I'm just trying to become a gear in part of their system, because they're incentivized from the standpoint that if fewer people go back than normal, they get more money, which means they get more probation officers, which means that's the way, at this particular point in our society, that's becoming the way in California, the way to handle the problem, because the sheriffs, the police chiefs, okay, the judicial branch, the district attorneys, they're not involved in that, by choice or by whatever it is.
Well, in the long run, that saves the state money too.
Right.
Even though there are more probation officers.
Right. It's just got to a point of being non-affordable. Yeah. When you go from 500,000 people incarcerated in 1980 to 2.5 million people incarcerated in 2008.
And this is just California.
This is the country.
Oh, the country.
But if you look at the country as a whole, as of 2008, there's over 7.2 million people in the PIC, which is the Prison Industrial Complex. So if you look at that, that's probation, parole, jail, prison. Now, if you hone that number down a little bit, 7.2 million out of our 320 million population is about 2%. Okay, but if you look at it again, okay, it's 1 in 31 adults. Okay, if you hone it down a little bit further, it's 1 in 18 males. Okay, if you hone it down a little further, it's 1 in 11 African American. 70% of the people in jail are non-white. Okay, so there's, you know, quite a bit of unfairness in the system. Okay, and there's no programs to address the imbalances. That's probably another step, you know, a few years, hopefully sooner, down the road.
Now, who has taken your book and has used it to actually influence, or how do prisoners get it? Maybe that's a better question. How do prisoners get your book?
Right. What it is I work with different support groups, and once my book goes into a prison, usually within 48 hours, no matter how big the prison is, this book becomes the #1 piece of sought-after literature within that prison. And the reason is the first part of the book is just to get them warmed up to the pace. And there's some, I don't know, evidently some pretty funny stories in there, and down on tier number 3, some guy will be laughing really loud, and everybody else will be going, you know, hey, there's some joy in this place, you know, what are you laughing about? And, they want to know.
Well, they identify with things.
And so whoever gets this book in a prison, within 48 hours, there's 6 people lined up that want the book. And so through the visiting room and word of mouth and whisper and everything, all of a sudden a lot of books start to flow into the particular prison that it's gotten into.
Now, how do you introduce the books into the various prisons?
Well, somebody, like the other day, a lady, I was at a support group in Modesto, and they had a meeting at Perco's once a month, and I told them my little story, and she goes, oh, I've got this son, he's down in this Texas prison, and I want to get him the book. I go, okay, give me his information, this is what it costs, and she goes, I want a book for myself, and I go, well, that's good, because you can track him, because if you read the book,
see where he is,
and he reads the book, and he's still shucking and jiving and giving you a bunch of, you know, talk about what he's going to do, then you'll know he's not following anything in the book or anything else. And so she gets him a book like that, but I send it straight from Amazon.
Okay.
And so it has to be paperback. The reason the book is a paperback is because you can't send a hardcover into prison, because they'll turn into a weapon quicker than quick. And so, but that's how it gets in. I send them a letter ahead of time, letting them know that, hey, your mother or your sister, you know, somebody's sending you this book. And I also let the inmates, you know, I give them my phone number, I give them my mailing address, you know, just mail me a letter. Let me know what you think. Let me know how I can help you.
Well, do you go out and give talks to people who are in prison, or to like local groups? Or?
Well, in the last time I was at a prison was in 2009 at San Quentin, and I've been on the Trades Advisory Committee at San Quentin for over 25 years. And the reason I wrote the book at that time is because I was speaking to this pre-release class, about 50 guys. And as I was walking through the yard to leave, Gary Schimmel, in the education department, he says, yeah, that's the last time you talked to that class. And here it is, December 2009. And I go, what's going on? And he says, oh, they're canceling it in January of 2010. And I go, well, that's ridiculous. And the sirens went off. And when the sirens go off at San Quentin, that means they're going to start shooting. And sure enough, at the Central Guard Tower, it's pop, 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 pop. And at the Central Guard Tower, they can shoot into the trades or 3 other yards. And so all the inmates have to hit the deck. But, we're the free people, so we don't. And so we slowed down, and just to see if there's any ricochets around us. And there weren't, so we kept walking. But, it was just, that's when I said I have to find a way to create some part of the pre-release process. And it took me a year, and then I did meet with Kurt Clark, who's the head of the director of the Modesto Small Business Administration, and found him and his office to be very well equipped for helping anybody. And it took a couple meetings, and on the second meeting I said, it's a book. And he goes, what are you talking about? And I go, it's a book, and here's why. Da-da, da-da, da-da. And he said, it's a book. And so then he started providing consultants for me. And that was really nice, because the consultants didn't cost me anything. But pretty soon my website started to look better, and my Facebook started to look better. And I was able to see what the future was going to look like. And then once the book was printed, the first person I thanked in the back of the book was Kurt Clark from Modesto. And when he saw the book and we had our next meeting, boom, boom, he threw me a couple cards. And what that means on the street, so to speak, is he threw me a couple more consultants. And then these consultants helped me with the press release process. And so I learned the press release process. So there really isn't an area or a county or anywhere where I can't go into and I can't get a press release. I'll get the press release.
How widespread is this being circulated now?
It's in 165 countries.
Oh, already?
Well, the reason is when I published the book through CreateSpace and Amazon, they have the best distribution channel. And so it's on this format, the book format, but it's also in the Kindle format in 165 countries also, and it's also, and there was a recent European release, and then I'm also going to do the audible.com, so I'm going to do a Audible version of the book.
You're going to narrate it yourself?
Unfortunately, I have to, but I mean, I'll slog through it. I've had about 10 interviews, and the way the book starts off is about Keogh Hot Springs down in Bishop, and it also mentions the Sierra Mountains, okay? My last person that auditioned, he goes, yeah, Keogh Hot Springs in the Sahara Mountains. And I go, boy, that's the last one.
Better do it yourself.
Yeah, better do it myself, So, but I'm getting the setup for that over the next few weeks, and I will be doing that.
Now, do you find, and of course you've talked with a lot of prisoners, and you realize, families, as you say, the woman you met who uses it for her son, but it's both suitable not only for inmates, but for families who want to understand what they're going through, right?
Right. By reading this book, they can see, in parallel with the person that's in prison, they can see if that person is still telling them stories, okay, or if they're actually trying to improve their life. The hardest thing is once somebody's out, to get them to read the book. And then all of a sudden I hear a problem, like recently I heard a problem, and I go, you need to go to the probation meetings with your son. Okay, because that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing the hustle. And I go with them, find out exactly what's going on for that particular problem. Okay.
What's one thing that we could pass on to people out there? One tip, a main tip that you'd give to somebody who only has a couple months to go before they get out?
Well, I guess my tip on a greedy standpoint would be read the book, buy the book. But that's not really the point. As far as if they find a tool better than this, of course use it. Okay. If they can get their hands on this tool, or if you are a parent of a concerned son or relative that's in prison, and it doesn't matter if they have 4 years to go or 2 months to go or 6 months to go, get this book into them, either through me writing them a letter and sending them the book, okay, but get this book into them while they still have time to do, so they have a little better knowledge of when they get out what the rules are. when they get out.
What actually I meant by my question was, what specific thing comes to your mind that prisoners need most to hear?
Yeah, they need to hear somebody that's been in their shoes, which I have been. They need to see a story, okay, that didn't end in failure. Okay, there's not a lot of stories from people getting out of prison. I hid for 30 years once I got out.
Yeah.
I've been member of the top hotels in San Francisco, presidential clubs. I've sat at the same table with President of the United States and had dinner, and it's in the book.
Yeah.
But when they see that and they see how bad I screwed up, but when they saw the recuperative side and they said, you know, they can, basically what it does is the book shows them empathy, number one, okay? Number two, the book gives them hope, okay? And number three, those two build confidence. And that's what a person in prison, those three things, okay? And what's so nice is they have so much energy when they come out. Okay, and the thing is the book helps, you know, here's the good path, here's the evil path. Okay, the book takes you to the good path. You can still go that way. Okay, but the book can actually roadmap you, you know, to the good life.
But you can change if you're motivated.
Right.
Okay. Well, the name of the book is The Ex-Con and the Italian Princess, and you said it's available on Amazon.com, and where else? Oh,
it's available locally at Hine Books. Wolf owns Hine Books in Jackson, and then Sharon owns Sustenance Books up in Murphy's. So it's nice to support the local bookstores first.
Sure.
And then if you go to Amazon, or you can get it on Barnes & Noble, and if you just Google my name, K-C-C-A-S-E-Y, last name Odland, O-D-L-A-N-D, there's a lot of different places that'll come up that actually sell the book besides those.
And this is you on the front?
That's me in 1980 right there.
You're looking in mighty good shape.
That was the best shape of my life right there, and not in that shape anymore. But that was that's another reason that the book cover, when a lot of people on the free part of the world that have never been down this route, when they see it and they see that cover, they go, oh, that's a little rough. Okay, but anybody that's in prison, when they look at that cover, they go, there's something about this. I could have made it a lot more glamorous, shall we say. But
well, in some of the prisons, you look really clean cut. Boy, now I have to caution you once again, there are some rough words in there if you're not used to them, but that's the way things go when you end up in prison.
Right.
So if you hadn't learned before you went there, you learned them there.
Oh, you'd be surprised what you can learn there.
But it's good to see that I would call you clean cut now.
Hopefully. I get mistaken for a police officer more than anything.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially if I venture into a bad neighborhood. Are you a cop? No.
So you have that air about you.
Yeah, well, it's the confidence at times.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Casey, thanks a lot. Is there anything, just briefly, that we haven't covered?
No, I think you covered it real good. I'm glad that you took the interview, and I'm glad to be able to, you know, each step for me is just another step of getting the book out to a few more people. It's a grassroots, bootlegging it, bootstrapping it type of thing to get it out there.
Hey, well, thanks a lot to you.
Yeah,
and once again, The Ex-Con and the Italian Princess. And we hope you join us next time on Calaveras Living. See you then.